Doron, fantastic to have you back. Allegedly, a legend in the
Thank you.
industry.
Wonderful to be here with you.
I want you to walk me through the ways and means of working with the PE boards on the portfolio companies. What's your advice after all of these years in the industry?
I think the important thing to think about is that a private equity board is made up most often of two components. It's the board members who are representing the limited partners, commonly called the general partners as they sit on the board, and they have a very different set of interests than the independent operating executives who are sitting on the board. And those two groups need to be worked with in a different way. Certainly with the investment professionals sitting on the board, they're looking for clarity on the numbers, they're looking for transparency, they're looking for no surprises, they're looking for a clear understanding of where the business is going and everything about the financials, including the balance sheet, being able to pay off the debt, being able to meet the covenants, etc., etc. Most often those people are not as interested and don't really necessarily have the depth of experience to be focused on the operating side of the business. From a chief revenue officer perspective, the go-to-market, the sales, the marketing, the customer fulfillment, and the customer experience. They don't have that knowledge. Or even the operational aspects, the technology aspects of the business. So what they do is they take 1 to 3 people and put them on the board who are operating executives. And they've usually had some private equity experience. And my experience, both as an operating partner and as a CEO and now as a board member, is those are the people that you want to draw in to the company. You want to build relationships with them that allow the business to benefit from their experience. So they're not just going to the investment professionals and saying, oh, we think we should do A, B, C, D in the business, but they're coming, working through the CEO, working through the management team and supporting what that combination would like to get done, and they're additive to the business versus just sitting on the board in a normal, regular way.
Let's imagine a world where we're actually exiting these businesses faster than we currently are. What is your checklist for readiness for that?
I would say there are 2 things. The first is the most obvious. What's going on in the macro conditions in the economy? What's going on in the macro conditions in the industry vertical in which the company is located? What's happening with competition? Those kinds of things. Those are the kind of obvious things before you want to take a business to market. The less obvious things are, what have you got in the company today that the next buyer is going to look at and say, this is of real value to me. I can monetize and accelerate that value after I've bought the business. So if you've demonstrated a track record to introduce new products and services, the buyer looks at that and says, this company knows how to do that. We can do more. Or you've demonstrated a track record of expanding geographically. The buyer says, we can do more. Or you've demonstrated a track record of doing tuck-in acquisitions, and there are others left and available to be done. The buyer looks at that and says, wow, I'm not just buying a company at a multiple of X, it's really X plus 1 or X plus 2 that I'm going to get benefit of. And if you really push that far ahead, you will also give some thought to, after that buyer has bought the business, what's going to be available to the next buyer. Because in any 5 to 7 year hold period, you can't capitalize on everything that's available. So you want to have some things that the next buyer, after the existing one, can capitalize on and monetize.
Let's talk about human capital. It is an incredibly subjective area, and yet you are expected to show results from the right decisions. How do you capture that and show that?
It is subjective, but it doesn't have to always be subjective. So most CEOs of portfolio companies and the management teams are measured on 2 things. They're measured on a hard set of numbers, which is highly objective and easy to get, and you get it every month. You may get it a week later than the end of the month or 2 weeks later, but you know exactly how the individual's performing. But then there are a set of behavioral key performance indicators and other key performance indicators that are also measurable. The challenge that many private equity firms face is that they don't want to lean in on the CEO and have a conversation with her on a regular basis. So they like to push it out 9 months out or a year out and only do it with that frequency. My approach has been sit down, every 90 days, when you're having a conversation about the objective measures that they're being bonused on, have a conversation about the subjective measures also. Are they making progress on transforming the ERP system? Are they making progress in being more inclusive and listening better and those kinds of attributes? Are they leading with intention? And if you provide feedback at those points, it becomes a lot less subjective and becomes a lot more objective, because the frequency, you can refer back 90 days ago, we spoke about I'm seeing progress.
How long have you been in this industry?
I've been in the industry just shy of 20 years.
Rewind 20 years. What do you wish someone had told you then that would have sped you along your career faster?
Most operating partners don't lack the intellectual quotient in their skill set. Okay? Most operating partners do lack the emotional quotient in their skill set. And that emotional quotient is a very important one, because in essence, there is a triangle of tension between the CEO and the management team, the investment team led by the investment partner, and the operating partner. And the operating partner, by virtue of their stature, is the cheese between the sandwich and is often being squeezed. It's a highly stressful job. It's a job that's requiring a lot of speed. And if you don't have that emotional quotient to invest in the development of the relationships, both with the investment people and the CEO and the management team, then when things get difficult, the stress only rises. So what I really wish is I had known that earlier and I'd understood that better, because the first couple of years of being an operating partner, I worked hard on that. It was highly stressful and I struggled and I made errors. And then eventually I picked up my cadence and figured out how to do that. But I would love to have known that at the beginning of my career there.
Doron, we love having you here. What's it like to be part of this community of operating partners that we run here?
It's an extraordinarily rewarding experience from a networking perspective and from a insight perspective. There is no place that I have been in the past just short of 20 years where I can gather so quickly, so intensely, very meaningful and very impactful insights, whether it be on digitization or on AI or on how to make a ERP transformation or where to go and run a search to replace a CEO. So you get these tremendous insights, but you also develop very deep friendships with people, because you share the pain that you're going through, they share the pain that they're going through, and that creates an emotional bond between people. And as the years go by, that emotional bond gets deeper, and casual business relationships become meaningful friendships.
We appreciate your time. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Appreciate you inviting me.